Well, good morning, and thank you for being here. We are diving into the F&I tune-up today. Let's see if my computer would work. There we go. We are going to work on menu preparation. Now, I used menu preparation, not presentation, because we're going to get into presentation next week. This week, we're working on how do we prep our menu for a customer, something that's very overlooked. And there's some subtle things that we can do that will really make big strides for your PVR, for how easy it is once you get in with the customer. And I'll go through some of those things here. So, okay, a couple things we're going to cover. One, we're going to go over how using the information from the customer interview, we can use that to set up our menu. And that's going to be very important. And that's something, again, I think it's something that's overlooked. I think we get in some ruts sometimes when it comes to our menu, and it's here's my menu, boom, print it out. I use the same one for everybody, boom, 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 boom. And that happens. But what we really want to make sure that we focus on is we want to use the available tools that we have, that we're given, to really tailor it to the customer. And all the trainings that we've walked through, the one thing that I really speak on a lot is tailoring it to the customer. The more you tailor it, the more you're going to affect your CSI. You're going to have big CSI, and you're going to have a lot more customers engaged because they feel like it's being presented to them, not them as a number, but them as a person. And there's two different ways that we can set up a menu. So we're going to kind of walk through that a little bit. So first, let's dive into it. All right, how that interview sets up your menu presentation. Okay. So we want to tie the needs to the customer's protection products. So what does that mean? Big thing you want to look at is, what did the customer give you in an interview? And we're going to offer 100, set this aside. We're going to offer every product to every customer every time. But I might offer two or three products differently to this customer versus this customer. We're going to go through a couple of examples to kind of see how that flow should go. But that's going to be the main focus, is taking what we get from that interview when we go out and talk to them, and how we can apply it to the menu. All right. Like we said before, it's going to help personalize the conversation. You're talking to someone one-on-one, and you're using some of the stuff that they've said, and you've listened to what they're doing, makes all the difference in the world. The biggest thing we want to get out of our heads is we want to make sure a customer doesn't feel like they're just profit walking through the door, that they're an actual person that we want to take care of. Because I'll tell you what, any seasoned F&I person will tell you, and you'll probably say this yourselves, is the customers that walk out with the largest pay, that I mean, the biggest ones, your big deals, they're usually the happiest customers. Oh man, they're high-fiving it, and you're like, they took everything on the menu, so that kind of thing. So that's exactly what we want to get with every customer. And by personalizing it, that's how we're going to get there. So, like I said, we're going to build the menu around customer personalized plans. So we're going to look at that. All right. So refresher, just a refresher, because it's been a couple weeks. What are the goals of the customer interview? Well, first and foremost, we want to gather the accurate information. We're going to get that. Who's going to be on the title, what address we're using, if correct names, all that information. Um, Big things you want to start diving into in the customer interview, though, how are they using it? Are they the weekend warrior? Do they take it on their property? Is it a motorcycle they're driving back and forth to work? Or is this the bike that they take to go to the coast on the weekends because that's all they use it for? Those types of things we want to kind of find out. Okay, find it. And you compare that with the identity, identifying like the needs and the priorities. Because if it's motorcycle, and we're driving it back and forth to work, and this is their main way of getting back and forth to work, okay, that's going to be different for the how you want to prep for that customer versus that customer that says, I'm going to ride it on the weekends. If the customer that rides it on the weekends has a mechanical breakdown, they're probably not as stressed as the person who uses it day to day to get to work, right? I mean, they're probably not going to be super stoked. They're not going to be happy that it broke, but they're probably going to still have I got a car, I got this. If this is their main conveyance, they're going to be a little bit more pressed. You have to judge your menu that way. Um, the other thing with goals of the interview, make sure you're setting those expectations. I'm sliding that in there because that's how you rule your CSI, is letting your customer know, hey, this is how the process works. You dictate to them what kind of time frames. When people know, they're happier. I If you went to the dentist and they told you that it's going to be a half-hour wait and they were upfront with it, you might not be super okay with it, but it's like, all right, at least I know it's a half-hour wait. But when you go and you're just sitting there in la la land and they're just like, well, we'll come see you. 30 minutes go by, I got steam coming out of my ears like I'm a 1950s cartoon. So there's that expectation is going to be huge for you. And then lastly, make sure that we're always remembering format. Things that you can talk about with that customer in the interview: family, occupation, recreation, motivations, animals, and teams. Every customer that's going to come in fits into one of these little categories. You have something you can talk about. So let's make sure that we keep that in mind when we're going into our interview of trying to gather as much information about the customer as possible. They got three little kids running around. You're going to know that maybe there's some other things that they've got, that, sealants, stuff like that, they might be more interested in because you got kids, they make messes. That's how it goes. These small little things. So keep that all in mind. All right. So we're going to dive right into it. Okay. We're going to go into an example of what a customer would tell you in an interview. And then we're going to kind of talk about what you would do on your menu to fit that customer. All right. So first, we got a customer comes in. I ride from March to October. We go everywhere to ride when baseball season lets us. That right there, I mean, that's a huge sentence. Now, I would love it if every customer came in and gave you this exact sentence of, here's what I do. Yeah. Your job as a finance manager is you're going to have to make sure that you get some of that information from the customer. It might not be all pieced together perfectly like this, but it's going to be your goal to get this kind of sentence out of them. So if they're riding from March to October, well, first and foremost, in my head, they let it sit. So if it's sitting for from November to February, that's 4 months that it's sitting. Well, what are they going to be big proponents of? Battery. So when I set up my menu, I'm going to make sure battery is in every single column on my menu, because battery is a necessity for someone like this. That, hey, if it's going to sit for 4 months, there's a good chance, unless you have it on a battery tender and this, that, and the other, and even then, that doesn't guarantee you, depending upon how cold it is, it doesn't guarantee you that that battery is going to last. You're going to be a battery swapper outer. And here's the bottom line: most customers, if they say that they're going to ride from March to October, they know already they've replaced a couple batteries. Their trade-in, they probably got on the third or fourth battery anyways. So every one of my columns would have battery in it. Okay. We go everywhere to ride. When I hear that from a customer, I want to make sure I'm speaking to, a VSC program that has, making sure that, you've got, roadside assistance, or you have a maintenance plan with roadside assistance, or you have some kind of program that they know that, hey, if you break down, you're going to have coverage wherever you go, kind of explaining that, hey, our VSC coverage is good anywhere in the United States as long as it's a, certified mechanic and you get it approved beforehand, you're good to go. So these are the things you want to start setting up in your head about what you're going to cover. And it fits for what the customer is going to do. So it seems simple, but the reason I do this and the reason we go through these trainings is because even though it does seem a little simple, it's sometimes the things that we forget, because we get so enamored with, I've got my one menu, boom, I print it out, I just put in the numbers, I'm good to go. And, and everybody likes their little comfort zone. Doing it this way, it makes it a little bit harder on you as a finance manager, because you might not have the same products in the same place. So you have to really pay attention. You can't just fall into your same rhythm. But that's a good thing, because then you're tailoring it to the customer, and the customer and you are going to be more engaged because you're engaged making sure that you're staying on your menu, instead of just, yeah, in the gold package, yeah, you get this, and this. And see what I'm saying? Those are the types of things that you can get away from by being engaged with your menu. And the only way you're going to do that is switch it up on yourselves. keep you just as entertained as the customer. All right, let's go to the next customer example. I have three of these. I've had three of these over the past 5 years. So I'm super excited for the new suspension. My payoff is through Sheffield. Okay. Three out of the past 5 years, they're trading in every 18 months. You're probably going to see that on their credit. I love it when people come in and they say that too. I had three of these over the past 5 years. I'm keeping this one. Biggest eye roll on the planet, because there's no way you're going to keep this. You're going to see something new come out and you'll be like shiny squirrel and just right to the next one. So set your menu up accordingly. How would I do that? Well, if their payoff is through Sheffield and they're trading in every 18 months, unless they've got a huge chunk down, they're probably used to rolling over some sort of disequity or not being in an equitable position. So gap insurance is a must. Got to have gap. And hopefully on a customer like this, you have no chargeback gap. So just throwing that out there. If you get that theft coverage, I'm offering 3-year theft coverage, not 5. I'm keeping all my terms short. The VSC I'm offering, 3-year VSC. I'm starting with smaller loan programs when it comes to terms. So not just my menu, but on my menu, not just the menu products, but on my menu, I'm offering smaller terms. So I'm going to rotate that down to, instead of a 60-month payment, I'm going to show them 48 and 36. Try and build up, excuse me, try and build up some equity, or at least have them chopping away at the disequity to make sure that they're set up for the next one. So that's a little bit of a harder sell, because sometimes those people are just payment buyers. I'll just keep my payment the same and we're fine. I understand that, and do what you got to do to make the deal. Ain't nobody saying anything else other than that. But if you can take some attempts to try and get a shorter term with a little bit of product in there, it's going to make all the difference for you, for sure. Um, Lastly, payoffs through Sheffield. I know where I'm running this right back through. If they make good payments, if they've got a decent credit score and they've got good history with Sheffield, I'm running it back through Sheffield. So keeping them on that same bank, same program, you can use it as a bonus. Hey, I was able to keep you through Sheffield. Sounds like you had a good experience with them. We're just going to keep that trainer rolling. And that's something that boosts your aura, or however you want to, your rep with them is like, wow, this guy really took care of me. It's already got me back through the same bank, not trying to shove me through another lender or whatever, or trying to confuse me. Everything's really good, super simple. That takes a lot of that stress out of the customer's mind. And it's things like that we got to really think about. Okay, here we go. Example number 3. I use this bike to go back and forth to work, saves a ton on gas, and I only want to put $500 down. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So this is a daily commuter. That daily commuter customer is different than the weekend warrior, the person who's going to go use and play with it just on the weekends. You want to approach your menu differently with this. And how I would do that is, I want to focus on VSC for number 1. 2, I want to focus on gap insurance. And the reason I want to focus on, I mean, these are big programs that we want to focus on. But what I'm talking about is I want to make sure that each one of these programs is in a lot of my menu, especially gap. Because if you're using the bike a lot, what's going to happen? Depreciation. Well, as you use the bike more and more and you're putting on a ton of miles, well, you're increasing that depreciation, because you're probably not going to pay it off as fast as you would that you're using it. Well, what does that mean? You're building a bigger gap. So we want to make sure they have gap insurance. All right. If they're going back and forth to work, something to think about too, it's repetitiveness. What do thieves like? They love repetitiveness. You always park your bike in the same spot. It's always left in the same way. They know you leave it there for 6 hours. They start to see these trends. Unfortunately, that works in a thief's favor. So theft and coverage. Just these little things that you can say. It's just a different way of pitching it, and it tailors it to the customer. Hey, I have a lot of customers who, unfortunately, they do use their bike on a regular pattern. That's something that can draw a thief's attention. We just like to make sure we have a theft coverage that can help eliminate theft. And if it doesn't, well, then you get a little bit of a payoff to help pay for the new bikes if something goes wrong. Very simple, very easy. You're not giving anything away. You're just, hey, this is what you do. This is how the product fits. There you go. That's the whole goal. If you're able to take something like that. But sometimes you have to look at it from a flip side and say, well, if I do take what they give me, how can I use that to present it? And and I'm not saying it. I got to be very careful with this because I've never liked saying like use it against them. I'm not trying to use their information against them. I genuinely want to help a customer out. I want them to have coverage because I feel it's important. So I want to find a way to explain it to them. Sometimes, a lot of times, when a customer left my office and I wasn't able to get them on something or something, I felt bad because it's like I feel like the customer needed that program. I just didn't explain it well enough. And trust me, there I'm not above it. And I have thought about it. And I've had customers where I've called back and said, I think I messed up when I showed you this. I really think this would fit for you. Here's the reasons why. Boom, boom, boom. And it worked. It worked some of the time. Sometimes I get customers that come back in and pay for it over the phone, which was pretty cool. Because it definitely felt like it was helping somebody out. But at the same time, sometimes it didn't work. It happens. But that's how I look at things when it comes to these products. Is sometimes I feel like, man, did I mess up because I didn't present it right? Eh, eh, You feel that way, and that's the way I think that you want to play that game because that's going to help your CSI, and that's really putting the customer first. All right, here we go. Another example. This is my first razor. I'm not sure how much I will go out and ride, but I can't wait to get out there, rain or shine. Hmm. All right, so you get that excited first time person buying a razor, probably because he's got buddies that have already bought one and they want to go out and ride together. That's usually the case, but you get that first one, take your time. And when you boil down your menu to a first time person, what I would love to do, what I love to do with a first time person was I would have my menu broken up to where I had different packages set up with different products in it. Really get them, I wouldn't say mixed up, but what I would say is I would have one that would say, listen, if you're are you taking this out to someone's property? So then I'd have VSC, gap insurance, um, and then go from there. Or are you, no, we want to go ride, up in West Virginia, Hatfield McCoy trails. Okay, well, here's theft coverage, here's gap insurance, here's this, different things like that, just to make sure that when I'm going through the menu and I'm switching it up like that, that draws in a customer's attention who's never done it before, because they're going to see it and it almost, I don't want to say overwhelms them, but it almost puts them in a position where it puts them in that position where they have to think a little bit more. And that's what I want. I want them to think a little bit more about what I'm offering on the menu and the different plans, because when I do that, it gives me individual time to go over each product. Now, a lot of finance managers, when you get that first time buyer, they love to load up one column and just walk through the entire column and just boom, 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 boom. Okay. And that's not a bad plan. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. But what I'm saying is you get to the bottom of those products, a first time buyer is going to be like, there's so much going on. When you stagger it and you put it in different menu spots and you're going over it, it gives you a chance to do one of the most important things when you're doing any kind of presentation, whether it's public speaking or whatever, the power of pause. Just to have that pause in there. So when you're going through a program, hey, this is the gold program. Here's what it brought in. But there's a silver program. Let's go through that. And here's this. When you have that pause in there, a lot of people hesitate with the pause and they just keep talking. They talk, they talk, they talk. We're going to go through the gold program, then we're going to go through here, we're going to go through here, go through here. When you don't pause, that doesn't give the customer time to soak it in. And it's very, very key that you want them to soak that in with a first time buyer. If that's what I could tell you, is that when you get a first time buyer, slow down, put multiple products in each menu slide, and then walk through them step by step. Sometimes we don't like that silence, that pause, because, well, if there's silence, it's uncomfortable. Pausing happens and it makes people pay attention more to what you're saying. So don't be afraid to do that with a first time buyer. Now, The last part of the sentence, I can't wait to get out there, rain or shine. I always took that for me. They're going to go ride in December. They're going to go ride. They're going to want to try it out in the snow. They're going to want to try it out in January on a patch of ice and see what happens. So I focus sometimes on that too of constant riding. And if they're going to be constant riding, what programs fit well for constant riders? Making sure, gap insurance, payment protection, because if you're constantly riding, you're using it more likely something's going to go wrong. You don't want, as a first time buyer, you want your first loan to go solid. Well, if you have payment protection, then you don't have to worry about it. If something breaks, which it might happen because it's your first one, if something breaks, not only will the VSC cover you, but then we're going to be making the payment for you too. So you don't have to be making the payment on something you're not riding. Big selling points. So definitely use that when it comes to that. So that's some good examples that we can set. All right. So now we're going to transition. Two types of menu setups. We have the descending options method and the ascending option. There's pros and cons to both. We're going to touch on both of these and then we'll get out of here. First one, the descending options method. Basically what it is, first column that you show them has everything in it, and you slowly work your way to less and less and less. Well, and you use the words forfeit or subtraction, or we can take away the theft. And here's this. Not a bad menu program. A lot of people still use the descending method because they want them to see a full column with everything. So they just say, yes, there you go. But you're using a lot of negative. The con to it is you're using a lot of negative words. We're going to take that away. If we just give up theft, or if we just give up gap insurance, I don't like saying that. I don't like putting more negative words into them. It's basically telling them, well, you can have this, but since you don't want that payment, you don't get this, this, and this. It's like, I don't know. It just sometimes it doesn't come off right. Still not a bad way of doing things. It can present it right. You go through it. Hey, here's a fully loaded column. This is your fully protection column. If you want to give up a couple options that you feel you might not need, here you go, here you go, here you go. Still a great way to do it. But I think if I were to lean towards one, I definitely lean towards one. I lean towards this. I lean towards the ascending option menu. So my first column, I always did the first column of 100% based off of what the customer interview was. These are the two programs you have to have. Why? And it was always two, because then I can get them focused on two programs. Then what I did is the next column, I took those same two programs, added a third, added a fourth, and then my full column that had everything in it. And I had reasons why I would add which one. And I would go in order and I would switch it up constantly. So that first column was never the same for any customer. Never. I mean, well, eventually it became the same. You can only have so many combinations, but I would always rotate that, and that fit the customer. Those were the two programs that I'd look at it through my customer review and say, I'm getting these two programs. Done. That is not if they leave my office without these two programs, I have failed. That's the way I looked at it. That was my mentality. And I got really good at that one column, and then starting to add to it, that took some practice. And I think the major reason I got really good at that one column is because I believed in here and up here that it was 100%. They had to have it. And when you feel that way, you're going to come across that way. And the customers are going to feel that and be like, man, gosh, if I don't have this, I'm going to suffer. I don't want that to be the customer's way to get that, but I want them to have that feeling like I have to have this. This is the protection I need. Car insurance, got to have it. I mean, it's burned into our brains. You have to have car insurance. I wanted it to have that same feeling for that first package, and then start adding to it. So different ways of doing things, but you can definitely fall into the one you like. But I definitely like the ascending option method a little bit better. Okay, homework for the week. Hooray. Love giving out homework. Makes me feel important, like I'm a teacher. So on your own, not with a customer, just you, go out and print out your menu program how you would for a customer, and then flip it around and pretend you're the customer and go through your menu how you normally would go through it. because we all know we have that normal menu package that we normally set up and we normally hand out to customers. I'm using normally a lot because it's normally the one way we do things. Okay. Print that out, take a look at it, and see from the other side, the other perspective, how your menu looks. Does it look, do you have too many products on one column and you don't look at the other two and you're like, "Ah," it can be when you look at it from a customer, through a customer's eyes, through a customer lens, it's amazing how your menu can look differently than if you've got it. Let's be real, all of us are used to looking at our menu what, upside down, because we're got the customer in front of us and they're the ones looking at the menu. Flip it around, take a look at it, and see where we can apply some of the techniques we learned today on our menu. Okay, so uh, man, I went a little long today. I apologize. It's a big subject, and next week we're going to have another big subject of how to present the menu. We're going to go through each one of these columns, how to discuss it, how to bring up, how to handle some objections through it. We've got a lot more menu training coming up over the next couple of weeks. So, thank you very, very much for being here. And does anybody have any questions? Don't great information. Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Brittany. I appreciate that. Hopefully, hopefully this will help. And like I said, if you can take one or two things away, I think that would be massive. It makes my day. So I definitely want to help everybody out. All right. Well, we will see you next week. And again, I'll send out an email with the YouTube link so that way everybody has that. And we'll see you then. Thank you. Have a good one.